So, potentially controversial take, Summoning Salt is awesome. He makes some of the best speedrunning videos on YouTube, where he goes super in-depth into how world records change over time. Just the way he walks you through the basics of a game and builds up strategy after strategy as the videos go on makes each one feel like a proper journey every single time. The guy knows how to tell a captivating story with each and every game he covers and how to present each community in the best possible way. And he also happens to be a world record holder himself in Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, both for the Tyson fight and for the full game, a record he has held since 2016, making him one of the most dominant world record holders in the world. He's the only person in the entire world to have ever beaten Mike Tyson in under 2 minutes. And the best part is he barely mentions anything about this ever in his videos. At least not until his 2.5 hour long video on Punch-Out World Records that he made back in 2023. It's a fun game to play with your friends. Introduce one of them to Summoning Salt, then bet on how long it takes for them to discover that little piece of trivia. It's a guaranteed wholesome time. Summoning Salt is awesome, and he seems to get better and better with each new upload. And yet, weirdly enough, as much as I love each new upload, I find his older world record progression videos to be more interesting, in a way. Nothing on his newer stuff, obviously. The mic quality isn't as good, pacing can be a bit weird, and maybe they're not as in-depth or competent or peer-reviewed as his more modern videos. But to me, there's just something charming about them. He sounded less like a YouTuber and more like a regular guy just nerding out about speedrunning history.
So not only would the game be played in slightly slower motion on PAL, but all times would be about 17% slower too.
And as much as I like Vaporwave, there's a certain joy I get in hearing him sneak in some block music in the middle of his DK64 video. It's a different vibe compared to his modern videos that I find myself appreciating quite a bit. They have this kind of personality that only an at the time upcomer can have. It's just a shame that the man himself seems to disagree. At some point last year, Summoning Salt made a tier list of his own content where he went kinda hard on his old videos.
Like, have you guys seen my early stuff, 2017? It is not good.
Like that DK64 video I've mentioned, he put it in bad. Same with his video on Portal, he put that one in trash. I kinda liked those videos. If I didn't know any better, I would have thought Summoning Salt was being a little too hard on himself whenever he dismissed some of his old videos as being inferior to his newer stuff. But that's just me, I guess. I'm not the one who made those videos, so my perspective isn't really worth much. I just find it fascinating seeing the guy be almost embarrassed by them. And to be fair to him, he's not the only one. I don't know a single YouTuber who doesn't feel a little weird about their early content. Whenever someone reacts to their old videos or does a tier list on them or makes new content to replace them, they hold them in some kind of contempt, almost like they're ashamed of it. Even if those videos are fine, maybe even iconic, you'd think from how these YouTubers talk about them, they're an affront to God or something.
Oh God! Why did I do that thing? Oh, that was me? Oh God!
It could just be that they're playing it up as a bit because it's classic Humility 101, roast yourself before others roast you. But that doesn't explain the guttural reaction of disgust and shame that so many of these YouTubers get from their old shit. And the example of this that made me want to make this video in the first place was Super Eyepatch Wolf's latest upload titled The Unreality of Pro Wrestling Finish the Story, which is a redo of one of his older videos called The Unreality of Pro Wrestling, which was one of my favorite videos on the platform for the simple reason that it's the only video that's been able to get me to understand the appeal of wrestling. It's about the story of Joseph Anoa'i, also known as Roman Reigns, and how he became the most popular and at one point most hated wrestler in WWE, and how, just watch it. It explains the whole thing in a way that makes sense to someone like me who isn't into wrestling, a feat even Emplement's video on Monday Night Raw couldn't achieve. It's a well-written, thorough look at the storytelling involved in pro wrestling and how malleable the in-universe storyline can be by the real world. However, Roman Reigns' story wasn't exactly complete at the time. The original video was released back in June of 2023, back before WrestleMania 40 took place in 2024, which was, from what I hear, one of the best WrestleManias of all time, where Roman Reigns' story as the tribal chief, I just watched the video, came to a conclusive and emotional end, just as the story of another wrestler known as Cody Rhodes came to a satisfying conclusion with him winning the belt. And this revamp of the original video released earlier this month basically adds on information about Cody Rhodes and how the legacy of his father Dusty Rhodes has haunted him up until the aforementioned WrestleMania 40. Seriously, he took his original video, which isn't even 2 years old, slapped Cody's story on top of it, and regurgitated it into a new video, turning what was once a brilliantly made, focused, and beautiful video essay into kind of a mess. And I'm not gonna lie, if I were to watch this revamped version of it for the first time instead of the original, I don't think I would have been able to get it quite as easily. It's like taking an already prepared burrito, unwrapping it, shoving some chopped green peppers in there, then trying to wrap it back up, except now it's bursting at the seams and it's just cumbersome to eat. It's a mess. I really like Super Eye Patch Wolf's content, but he does have a tendency to redo or rectify his old content, which is fine, alright? It's okay to remake or update videos that are outdated for some reason. It's not like the guy does it out of shame or hatred for his old videos, but it's hard not to notice when it becomes a pattern.
You know, most of the videos I do, I really feel like by the end of them, man, I really could have done a better job on that one.
This single scene invalidated everything I had done, making my video obsolete. You can still watch that original video, but it's meaningless now. A crumbling husk of obsolescence. This video is my penance. Hi, welcome to the correction zone, where I pay for things I got wrong 4 years ago. Also, I'm wearing the Garfield costume again because this is my penance for getting something wrong.
Probably the most extreme example of this has to be the fall of Bleach 4 years later, which is a straight up replacement of his at the time 4-year-old video on the supposed fall of Bleach, which is one of his earliest videos and apparently had some misinformation in it, as it was one of his earliest videos. And so he made this new video to replace his old video, then unlisted and later privated his original video. And this is where I started to have a problem. Obviously in this case he felt as though the original video simply wasn't fully honest to how he feels now, and so he decided to do it over again and fix whatever mistakes he made, and I can appreciate that. But when YouTubers unlist or even private one of their videos for whatever reason, it's kinda sad. It's almost like they're erasing a part of their history, even if said history haunts the present. And I'm not talking about videos that are unlisted for obvious reasons, like having misinformation or getting severe backlash or otherwise being super outdated. I'm talking about videos that millions of people have seen and enjoyed that will no longer be seen or enjoyed now, because the creator no longer stands by it, or whatever. There are many different cases of content creators disowning and even delisting their old content, but probably the biggest and most obvious example of this has to be iDubbbz and his content cops.
What we do here is go back. There
were these surgical teardowns of various YouTubers of the time who many considered to be, at the very least, problematic. YouTubers like Keemstar, Leafy, Jinx, the Fine Brothers, Jake Paul, people like that. And they were so effective at what they did that in many cases they've managed to at least be the catalyst for each and every one of these YouTubers falling off, except for Keemstar. These content cop videos are often seen as some of the greatest YouTube videos ever made. They have managed to push the envelope in terms of what content creation can be, and are among some of the most influential videos on the site. In short, they are legendary, which is why it was so baffling when iDubbbz in May of 2023, nearly 2 years ago, unlisted all the content cops and apologized for them, saying that they have spread hate and have encouraged this kind of hateful culture, I guess.
I am responsible for creating a lot of hurtful and damaging content on this channel, and I've also created a culture of apathy and a lot of cruelty as well.
A move so controversial that it all but ruined iDubbbz's reputation, which of course wasn't helped by all the Creator Clash 2 drama at the time with how he treated Froggy Fresh.
I have no idea what public perception for this video is going to be. That's why I'm doing it now, right? The event is now over with. I can air my grievances and we can see where it goes.
And no one could seem to agree with each other on how exactly to feel about this, to the point where even Moist Critical, who usually manages to get things right, made what many saw as a bad take when discussing it. Which makes me kind of nervous to even talk about it, especially since until doing my research for this video, I've never even watched any of the Content Cops all the way through. And upon finally sitting down and watching them all, I kinda get why he unlisted them. Here's the thing about 2016. It's often seen as the last of the golden years of YouTube, before the year of demonetization ushered in the not so golden years of YouTube. It also happens to have a reputation for being super edgy, and if you've been around at the time, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It was commonplace for content creators of the time to swear, drop slurs, and do a bunch of shocking and immature shit that you simply can't get away with today. And at the time, I'll be honest, I kind of felt uncomfortable with a lot of it, because I was kind of young and I was still relatively new to YouTube. Hence why I never watched any of the Content Cops, because aside from, I guess, Filthy Frank, who literally quit YouTube and went on to J-pop to get away from it all, iDubbbz's Content Cops are pretty much the epitome of 2016 YouTube, for better and for worse. They not only push the boundaries of content creation and commentary, but they also push other boundaries, the means of slurs, casual homophobia, dildos and other penile-shaped objects, and other shit. In fact, some of these videos are about said boundaries, particularly the cop on Tana Mojo, which has a big chunk of it about slurs like the N-word and the F-slur.
We are very fucking stupid to hold the word at this colossally high standard, whereas every other slur, that can be used in a comedic sense or an editorial sense, but not this one, because that one has history. Well, guess what, fucking all the other ones have history too. Either all of them are okay, or none of them are okay.
The context here is that Tana Mojo, the defendant in this case, called iDubbbz out on Twitter for casually using the N-word in his videos. Except she herself had used the N-word in the past among other slurs, and in a not so casual way. And she only called iDubbbz out on the N-word and not the aforementioned other slurs, even using those other slurs in her response to other people calling her out for the N-word. And this is what this clip is trying to convey, that Tana is a hypocrite. But even with that context, I mean, Jesus Christ. Obviously nowadays with a more critical mind, I am able to look past all these edgy aspects and appreciate and enjoy these videos for what they are. But yeah, I can imagine why iDubbbz nowadays would feel weird about them. Especially since iDubbbz has had some fan interactions with people who've taken those edgy aspects at face value. And I guess that's what ultimately spooked him to unlist them all. Hold up, new recording. Apparently, out of the blue, in the middle of me editing this video of all times, iDubbbz decided to upload a new hour-long content cop on Ethan Klein. 8 years after his last one, despite saying he was done with them. And let's just say that my thoughts remain unchanged, that the Content Cops had their place and should be left in the past, and that there's no way iDubbbz can or even should live up to them.
Oh yeah, if I ever do that, it's gotta be because I lose the plot.
And it also happens to be adjacent to this incredibly messy feud between Ethan Klein and Hassan Piker that I don't want anything to do with. So, for the purposes of this video, and for my own sanity, I'd rather pretend they don't exist, as they'd be far too stressful and time-consuming to cover. I hope you understand. Same with the Content Deputy. It doesn't count. Neither does the first one. I don't even consider them Content Cops. I refuse to acknowledge them. I refuse to talk about them. I just want to get this video done already. And iDubbbz, I swear to God, if you make me re-record this shit again, I'ma crash out. This is the 7th fucking time. I'm already way behind schedule, and I'm sick of it. Let me finish. Please. I never understood how a YouTuber could hold this much contempt for their old videos to the point where they see them as some kind of crime against humanity. At least until I became a YouTuber myself. And now I get it.
I think a lot of this stuff, despite it being bad, that's what age does. You look at people's old videos, it's bad. You know, look at my old videos, they're f***ing bad.
In my previous video, the one on videos that have aged like milk, I did my obligatory talk about myself segment, where I went over all my old videos on GH6064 that, in my opinion, have you know, whether it be certain events happening after the fact making them hit different, or it be missed opportunities, or it be the videos themselves having mistakes in them. In particular, I really went off on my good YouTubers turning bad video given how relevant it was to videos aging like milk, and also because I legitimately think it's one of my worst videos in terms of missed potential, weird takes, stupid mistakes, you name it. So I'm not exactly innocent either when it comes to shitting on old videos. But even then, I don't really regret any of my videos on here. At least not yet, we'll see. Your first few years of YouTube will suck, and your content will suck too. My old videos certainly did, I can't stand to watch them. And I'm sure a future version of myself will feel the same way about this video. Yet, hi, get a graphics card, like, now. Don't bother with NVIDIA, save yourself the headache.
Of course, we're producing at very large scale availability starting January.
My regrets as a content creator aren't with JHX64, but rather with an old channel I used to upload to before it called JHXE. Without the 64, just JHXE. I lightly recommend you don't check it out. I mean, there's nothing stopping you, curiosity doesn't always kill a cat, but you really aren't missing out on much. This was my first ever channel, and as such, I was new to making YouTube content. I haven't found my voice yet. I didn't know how to EQ my voice or even record it properly. The editing is not as good as it could be, at least when I actually edit. Sometimes I just ended up talking over gameplay. And even when I tried to make quote-unquote video essays, they had pacing and structural issues and are otherwise only really relevant in the context of my niche, that being crunker map making. And even the videos outside of that very specific niche are very difficult to watch, like my 100 subscriber special, the worst video I've ever made.
I've decided to make a fairly major change that I've always wanted to make since I've ever made this channel.
Basically, I announced to the world with my full chest that I was switching from DaVinci Resolve to Adobe Premiere Pro to edit my videos. As you may know, I've since gone back to DaVinci Resolve because Adobe is evil, but back then I didn't realize that. I'd spent the past few years prior to starting YouTube learning Premiere Pro through high school digital media class, and I hadn't known anything else, which is why when I tried to learn the free version of DaVinci Resolve, I didn't really jive with it. So when college required me to use Adobe's Creative Cloud again, I jumped ship back to Premiere. And my naive ass was all excited to do so, thinking I could finally make good videos.
Not only am I familiar with these programs, but the programs are much more feature-packed and more streamlined, and because they're in the Creative Cloud, they are cross-compatible with each other, and overall they allow me to get done with a lot more in less time.
So much for not sounding like a YouTuber, I mean, jeez.
And let me tell you, I forgot how much I miss Premiere Pro.
It's like I'm struggling to breathe sometimes, like it's taking everything in me just to speak my lines. Lines that are baffling to begin with. I claimed at one point that DaVinci Resolve was open source. I clowned on Resolve Studio's one-time fee of $300 like Adobe didn't cost me well over $1,000 over the next 4 years. I thought I would have been done with college in 2 years, not knowing that a pandemic would happen that would all but completely jeopardize my future. This video is f***ing stupid. I was f***ing stupid, and I can't believe I ever made this video and thought it was a good idea to upload it. Remember PewDiePie's 100 sub special? Yeah, I do, because it's actually memorable and understandable, unlike this shit. I could go on and on about every single one of these videos, all the Crunker map analyses, all the guides to my old Crunker maps, the commentary videos about Crunker itself, the dozen or so update videos, those times I blamed YouTube and open source software for my problems, my 2022 output that was a complete mess when I tried and failed to move on from Crunker because it was dying, or even that time period between January and March of 2023 where I resorted to YouTube Shorts in a desperate attempt to save my channel, which absolutely killed my soul and ended with me abandoning my channel once JHX64 popped off. But I'd be here forever if I were to do that, and they don't deserve that level of scrutiny, so I'll just leave it at they all suck and move on. And after trying and mostly failing to watch them all, I can confidently say that I get it now. Alright, I understand why YouTubers hate their old content. There are so many mistakes in all of my old videos, all the way down to the fundamental core, that I would never make today, and that I wish I could go back in time to rectify. Except I can't, so I have to cope with the fact that I did indeed make this shit, and that it's out here for the world to see, and I'm embarrassed by it all. But even then, I can't say I hate my old content, Because as strong as my sense of shame is, it's overpowered by an even stronger understanding that I wasn't really taking YouTube seriously at the time. When I first started in 2018 all the way up to 2022, I was really only doing YouTube as a side hobby, with my main career focus being my pursuit of game design, which is something I wanted to do for the longest time. Alright, I wanted to be an indie game dev. But when I graduated from college in 2022 with a game art and design degree that turned out to be useless, that's when I stopped pursuing game development and YouTube ended up becoming my main focus. And I'd argue when that happened, my videos started to get good, as I had started to take YouTube seriously. 2022 JHXC, as much of a failure as it was, ended up being the most fun I've ever had being a YouTuber. And that includes JHXC 64, as much as I enjoy making these videos. And if you ask me, my favorite video of all the videos I've made isn't even something I've made for JHXC 64. It was a video from JHXC during this period in 2022. It was the one about that guy who tried to argue on r/unpopular opinion that Rita from Flushed Away is not attractive. For context, Flushed Away is an animated movie featuring literal cartoon rats, with Rita being one of them. This guy was arguing about how hot a cartoon rat was. And the thing is, I didn't even know this when I first saw the thread. I just thought it was some character from some movie, and I didn't realize the movie was animated and the character wasn't even human. And when I looked it up halfway through and realized who this Rita from Flushed Away was, I lost it. It's an animated rat, bro. Like, shit. It was the most fun I've ever had making a single video on this platform, and because of that, I think it's one of the best videos I've ever made, despite it being kinda lazy. You could have just said you don't find her attractive because you're not a furry, and that you would have done so much better. And that you would have done so much better. I mean, come on, it's poetry. And that isn't even my best line. Remember that mystery quote from earlier in the video about Classic Humility 101? That was me. I said that all the way back in 2020 after putting myself in F tier on my own tier list of crunker map makers. I know a lot of people are gonna be all like, come on bro, you're not trash, stop bringing yourself down. Alright, look, it's Classic Humility 101. Roast yourself before others roast you. Even back then, I understood that we YouTubers are all egomaniacs who constantly think about ourselves, and that putting up a show of humility is pointless because everyone can see through it. Okay, maybe the term egomaniac is a bit much, but let's be real. There's nothing wrong with being a little selfish from time to time.
No.
It's why when Summoning Salt finally revealed in his Mike Tyson Punch-Out video that he's the world record holder of Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, I legitimately cheered.
This runner was me.
You have no idea how long I've been waiting for Summoning Salt to finally give himself credit for his accomplishments, and to finally see it happen back in 2023, 7 years after he first took the record. It was glorious. He has done it before in some of his other videos about Punch-Out. In fact, he's mentioned his records as early as his very first world record regression video, which happened to be about Punch-Out. And there wasn't really any reason to bring it up elsewhere anyways, and you can still see the older world records among his older uploads. So it's not like it's some big secret, but his more recent history of Mike Tyson's Punch-Out world records was the first time he talked extensively about it. And given his 7 years of dominance, he's had a lot more to talk about. And given his 7 years of experience on YouTube, he's able to do it all justice. And it's seeing this gulf of quality between his first ever world record progression and this video that really highlights how far Summoning Salt has come as a creator. And among everything else, it's also what really helped me understand why he may not like his older content that much, even if I do. He spent the better part of a decade improving with each and every video, to the point where the longer time goes on, the more his older videos just get left in the dust. And even if I may still enjoy the videos, I'll admit they just aren't up to snuff with his newest stuff. And I'd imagine Summoning Salt, being the guy who made them, would find it hard not to be a bit self-conscious of that. As good as it can be to just acknowledge that all these mistakes had to be made in order to learn and grow into what you are today, you still made those mistakes. Mistakes you'd never make today, mistakes that are public for everyone to see. And having these old, flawed videos up on your channel among your newer, much better content can feel a bit weird. It feels weird to me, it clearly feels weird for Summoning Salt, and I can only imagine how Super Eye Patch Wolf or just about anyone else feels. Sometimes it isn't even an issue of quality, sometimes they don't enjoy making that kind of content anymore. Sometimes it can be harmful to their mental or even physical health. Apparently DashEXP really was getting high blood pressure from playing Super Mario Maker. But most of the time it's just because they'd rather move on from that kind of content. Or maybe that content represented a period of their life they'd rather not revisit. It's really not a good idea for us to dwell on the old days too much for fear of them getting too old. If there's any one takeaway I found from all this, it's that as a viewer, and even as a YouTuber myself, I can never fully understand a creator's unique relationship with their content. I may empathize with other YouTubers, but I'll never have the same experience as them. I'm not saying to never watch old videos or to feel any shame for enjoying them, but just know that the older it is, the more it ages. Sometimes like milk, sometimes like wine. Sometimes the milk becomes cheese, sometimes the wine don't be fine. And no one is more sensitive to how it ages than whoever made it.